Welcome to day 3 of Shadowhunters month, and today's video I'm very excited to do because we're going to be talking about Simon Lewis, who is my favourite character in the Shadowverse, as you would have known if you watched yesterday's video, or if you watched any of my reactions or me mention Shadowhunters and basically anything. Hardly a surprise. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just make a video dedicated to Simon because I love him so much, and I wanted to kind of give a few reasons why I just absolutely adore him and his story in the whole Shadowhunters verse, be it the books or the show or even the movie, and just why I connected with him, what I admire about him, and also kind of talking about things that I hadn't really thought about Simon as a character, but that's using kind of a different book, this one, that I'll be getting to a little bit later on. And obviously kind of a spoiler warning for the books and the show. Maybe nothing too major in terms of the show, but definitely some big book spoilers, so there's the warning. I always forget to do that, sorry. But yeah, I'm good to go. I've even got him on my t-shirt, my classic t-shirt that I got as part of Alberto Rosendi's campaign for testicular cancer. He was like doing a fundraising thing, so it was like a limited time thing to order the t-shirt, and of course I got it. This is why Simon is my favourite character. So I suppose a bit of context first, in that the first thing I ever saw Shadowhunters wise was the show. I watched season 1 of the show first, then I read all the books before season 2 came out. So Simon was my favourite character from the show, and then maybe that influenced the books, but he's also my favourite character in there. But I think it's kind of inevitable. I do tend to like characters like Simon, kind of geeky, nerdy, socially awkward, with a heart of gold. It's kind of my type in terms of characters that I love. For the majority of the time, there are a few exceptions, but you know, Simon, the Doctor, mainly the 11th Doctor, who's my favourite, Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who's kind of my favourite fictional character ever. There's kind of a running theme with those kind of characters that I love. Simon from Firefly, things like that. Oh, I just got it, 2 Simons. Oh, maybe it's just in the name. But yeah, obviously, because the TV show was my first introduction to Simon as a character, I felt very drawn to Alberto Rosendi's performance. So I kind of wanted to say that as a reason why I love Simon so much. I think Alberto is one of the best actors on the show. He can do comedy really well, he can do the dramatic stuff really, really well. I think he's a fantastic actor. I can't wait to see where his career is going to go next. And he just seems like a really awesome human as well, which helps. Like his book club and everything that he does, I love. So yeah, his performance was fantastic, which kind of instantly drew me into the character. And I also thought Robert Sheehan did an amazing job in the movie as Simon as well. I really liked his performance in that. I'm a huge fan of Robert Sheehan as an actor anyway. I loved him in Misfits. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in Mortal Engines later on in the year. I think it's this year that comes out. Maybe it's next year, but yeah. The performers who have brought Simon to life in live action, I think, have done a great job, which also helped with my love of the character. But for me, like I kind of mentioned, I really relate to Simon personally, which is one of the main reasons I love him so much. I feel like you always love and connect to characters that you can personally relate to, be it in kind of character traits or just storylines and things that they've gone through. But yeah, we kind of meet Simon. He's this awkward, shy, socially inept nerd who likes comic books and comic book movies and TV shows, fandoms and all that kind of thing, wears glasses, bit hapless, kind of funny. I mean, I find him funny, but I don't want to sound up myself by saying, oh, I relate to him because he's really funny. Because, no, I'm not a snob. But there's so many aspects of Simon as a character that I personally really relate to. And I could see a lot of myself in Simon. So I was straight away kind of drawn to him, thinking this guy's great. And you know, he's mentioned he's a Star Wars fan, and I love Star Wars. He's mentioned being a Doctor Who fan. He mentions the Weeping Angels at some point in one of the books. And Doctor Who's my favourite show, so I was like, yes, Simon, you are amazing. So I see a lot of myself in him. I relate to a lot of his characteristics. Probably more at the start of the book, but then by that point I'm already rooting for him. So when he becomes a vampire and he does all these amazingly brave things, I'm still really cheering him on. Like a proud dad watching his son play football or something, I don't know. Very weird analogy to how I feel about Simon, but there we are. So yeah, I really relate to him on a personal level, and that was an instant draw and an instant plus for Simon as a character. And with Simon, some characters can be, you know, do all the serious kind of expositional stuff, and they have all these terrible things happen to them, and they carry a lot of the dramatic weight, you know, be it in books or TV and film, any kind of media really. And they have these characters that kind of, the comedy side of things, they do comedy really well. They don't really have like serious stuff happen to them or serious storylines. Kind of works the same way. And then we have Simon, who, in both the books and the show, has shown an incredible balance of the serious dramatic stuff with the humour. Simon has these great one-liners. He's really, really funny in the books and the show. And obviously he dies. Awkward. And becomes a vampire. He has to deal with all that. And it kind of tears his world apart, really. So he goes through a lot of personal hell, a lot of anguish and like his feelings for Clary and everything. And then his relationships with Maya and Isabel. And when he kind of attacks Maureen and she dies. And that kind of guilt. Max's death, Jordan's death, George's death, all affecting him in those different ways. He goes through all of that awful stuff, and when his mum finds out he's a vampire and kicks him out, you know, he goes through some emotional torment, and you really feel for him. But at other points, he can be really funny, and he can have these really light-hearted moments of characters, and as grounded as he can be in serious situations, he knows when to tell the joke at the right time and kind of ease the tension a bit. And he knows when he needs to be serious, he knows when he can kind of be funny. And I feel like a lot of characters couldn't really pull that off, but Simon really does, and I've always found that, you know, quite endearing. And yeah, I've kind of already mentioned several of his relationships. This is a kind of unwavering loyalty to the people he cares about. I just love like his relationship with Clary. I mean, I was never really a fan of them romantically. I never really rooted for that. But they remained the really best friends, really good friends after all of that went down. And he'd kind of do anything for her, and he'd die for her. And you can kind of see why they would want to become, you know, parabatai. And I always just loved that friendship right from the off. It's always been like a foundation of the books, mainly the Mortal Instruments. And that undying love they have for each other, I find really inspiring. And it's a relationship to look up to, really. How those two friends would kind of die for each other. Obviously Sizzy is like my food. I love them. I adore them to my very core. Such an amazing kind of pairing, and they bring out the best in each other, so I love that so much. Simon, I mean, he did the whole thing where he was dating Izzy and Maya at the same time, which I'm not very fond of, but he handles it so haplessly that I kind of forgive and forget when it comes to that. But we see him form this really deep emotional connection with Isabel, and they were really good friends beforehand, and then they became lovers, and I'm an absolute sucker for that kind of romance. So that only added to Simon as a character for me. And then kind of Jordan and George, he formed these really close bromances with, if you will. And obviously they both ended with Jordan and George dying, which is unfortunate. But both of those losses really affected Simon and stayed with him. You know, especially, you know, George, kind of, Simon changed his name to Lovelace in George's honour, which I absolutely love. And that shows kind of his loyalty to people he cares about. And, you know, even though he forgot Jordan's death for a time, because obviously he lost his memories, we saw in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy that came back to really, you know, affect and haunt him. Which just goes to show just how deeply Simon cares about people, and that's a quality I wish everyone could have. And even kind of, he definitely has a love-hate relationship with Jace and Alec, I think, especially Jace. But, you know, they're friends, really, they care about each other, really, and I love those kind of light-hearted friendships. Because they went through a lot of struggles together, they were kind of against each other a lot at the start, him and Jace, but they definitely worked through that, and, you know, if either one of them was in danger, I feel like the other one would risk their life to save them, even though they wouldn't admit to that. And I feel like Simon was always kind of intimidated by Alec, but they've come to an understanding now, especially that really nice scene, I think it's the 9th story in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. They have this really amazing scene together where they talk about whether or not Alec actually likes Simon. So I feel like just because Simon has these incredible relationships and friendships with so many other characters I love, that makes me love him all the more, and it shows what an amazing person and character he is, that he is capable of having such deep and meaningful connections with other people. So yeah, we kind of saw the growth and maturity he's gone through across all of the Mortal Instruments and beyond. And obviously he was the focus of Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, so we saw a lot of growth through him there. He grew in confidence all the time. He kept growing as a person. He got put through the emotional ringer, especially with his family quite often. And he fought through that, learned to overcome it, and ultimately became worthy of becoming a Shadowhunter. So I mean, if that's not proof that he's like an angel, I don't know what is. But I really loved his journey of growth throughout the whole of the book series. And even in the show we've kind of seen that as well. Seeing him in the show kind of get over, you know, his feelings for Claire and everything, and moving on from that. It's time to form more connections with other people, and it really adapt to the Down world and the Shadow world in general, even though he keeps kind of being outcasted in that world. That resilience I really like, and he is finding his feet and he's finding his place in this new world when it all changed forever. And I love seeing that journey. Kind of the pieces are finally fitting for Simon, and that's great. He's also immensely brave, which I really admire. You know, I would get scared even thinking about doing some of the things that Simon has actually managed to do. Like when he killed that demon, that big ass demon with the bow and arrow. An awesome moment for him, and I don't think he was even a vampire at that point, so I mean, you've got to give him some brownie points for that. When he kind of summoned the angel Raziel and gave up his Mark of Cain to kind of help save Jace. Another really selfless act, which I really, really loved. I mean, even Izzy kind of didn't want him to face Raziel, but he did it anyway, and Simon in book 1 never would have done that. So to see him kind of grow into a place where he was capable of being brave enough to do that is awesome. Just seeing him be brave enough to kind of sacrifice so much for the benefit of other people. That selfless quality in Simon I absolutely adore. And then we kind of come to this book that I was kind of briefly showing you earlier, which brings up a really good point and another amazing thing I love about Simon, and that's the concept of him being like othered and just being an outcast from loads of different groups. You know, initially he's a mundane in this group of Shadowhunters when him and Clary kind of meet everyone. He's kind of an outcast then, and just as he's finding his feet and kind of finding a place in that, he gets turned into a vampire. So again, he's othered from them, and even the other vampires are like, we don't really want you around. So he's even othered from his own kind at that point. And just when he's kind of finding a place there, he becomes a daylighter, so he truly is on his own, and the Shadowhunters and the other vampires are like, no, bye. You know, when his mother finds out about him being a vampire, she kicks him out, so he's isolated from his actual family. And, you know, Raphael's like, you can't stay at the Hotel du Mort with us because you don't accept who you are. So he was truly on his own in that moment. And then he loses all his memories, so he doesn't even know it at that point, but he's again being othered and outcasted from everyone else because he doesn't remember all the things that happened to him. So he goes through all of that, and there is an essay in this book, Shadowhunters and Downworlders, a multiple instruments reader. Can you see that? I've put some things in there so I can reference them in a bit. Basically this is like a really interesting read actually. It's like a collection of like critical essays about the modern instruments that Cassandra Clare has kind of compiled from loads of different authors. And there is one, if I can find the bloody thing, here by Michelle Hodkin called Simon Lewis, Jewish Vampire Hero. And it's kind of making those of interesting points about how incredible Simon is, and a focus of that being how he's being othered as a vampire, and how he's being othered right from the off, from the moment he was born, by being Jewish. And I hadn't really considered that aspect of Simon. Obviously I knew he was Jewish because I'd read the books and stuff, but I'm not Jewish myself, so I couldn't really relate to that side of him. I could appreciate it though, because it was kind of an interesting thing. And Michelle kind of talks about how everyone kind of had this interesting thing about them, and then Simon was like Clary's sidekick at first, and being Jewish could be one of the things that made him stand out, or tried to stand out from this crowd of like Shadowhunters. And she kind of goes into this concept of Simon being othered in a really interesting way. So there is a quote here, I believe. So I would definitely recommend going out and getting this book. There's loads of different essays about loads of different things, about like the villains, about Jace, about locations and stuff like that. Really good read. It basically says, perhaps it's the Jewish will to survive and endure, to persist unchanging in our beliefs despite the most horrific circumstances, that lends Simon the strength to survive and endure and hold on to his Jewish identity and humanity, to embrace his moral aims even as a new, dark, intruding part of him urges him to let go. But whatever the source, in fighting to attain that humanity, Simon proves that despite being a vampire, he isn't a monster at all. He proves that he's a hero. Simon is a hero to me. I love him. And what I love about her saying this is that even though being a vampire and like feeding on blood and everything goes against a lot of his religion as a Jewish person, he still considers himself to be Jewish, and he still very much grounds and holds himself to his religion and to who he used to be, even though lots of people would consider him a monster now. And in doing that, he's proving he isn't the monster people would say he is, which I find really endearing about him as a character. And she also talks about when he was just a mundane. He is so normal, so mundane, that even the other characters are prompted to ask what Simon is still doing at the New York Institute post-demon attack shenanigans, long after he should have been kicked out. He is singled out as other, not because he is different from us, the readers, but because, in being normal, he is different from the other characters, and therefore doesn't belong. So that kind of fits into what I was talking about earlier, of him being othered, no matter kind of what creature he became, or what he was transformed into throughout the course of the series. And yet he still battled through that, and he still held on to who he was, which I just absolutely love. And then she talks kind of about his loyalty as well, particularly to Jace, who he doesn't have a strong connection to as everyone else. But she says, Simon has no special love for Jace, nor Jace for Simon, as all fellow devourers of the Mortal Instruments series know, but Simon decides to save Jace anyway. Not for himself, or for Clary, or for the world, but because he believes it is the right thing to do. It's a brave, bold move, arguing with an angel, and it doesn't go unnoticed. A veritable warrior of your people, like him whose name you bear, the angel says. He then agrees to provide Simon with a sword, at the cost of his mark. Simon hates the mark, it scares him, but deep down Simon also thinks it's the only thing that made him special. Not one thing, the only thing, and still Simon lets it go. So I think that's testament to, again, him putting everyone else, even people he isn't particularly fond of, before himself. And that selflessness in Simon is something I just absolutely adore. And this is kind of the end of the essay that Michelle writes. And even though she's kind of talking throughout the whole essay that Simon is this hero, she accepts that he has flaws, because no one is perfect, and if there are characters who don't have any flaws, they're not very interesting. But she says, Simon Lewis isn't perfect. He sins. He misses. He is tempted in City of Fallen Angels, and even though he isn't a literal angel, he certainly does fall. But in City of Lost Souls, despite his mother's rejection and his wandering and his loneliness, despite flirting with the idea of giving up and giving in, Simon returns to himself. He never let go of the things that made him Simon, his Jewish identity, his beliefs. He sinned, he missed the mark, but he returns, and in returning he shines. Not because he was born a Shadowhunter like Alec or Isabel, and not because the blood of angels runs through his veins as it does for Clary and Jace. He wasn't born to be a hero the way they were. But in holding on to his humanity through the physical metamorphosis that threatens to swallow it, he demonstrates more than any other character in the Mortal Instruments that it is not our blood but our actions that define who we are. And when Simon finally realises this about himself, he finds that for the first time since he changed, he's able to speak the name of God. So obviously, when Valentine was going to kind of kill him, which is a bit awkward, he tries to say the words that I think you're supposed to say when you're Jewish, but he physically can't because it burns him and hurts him to do that because he's a vampire. But again, he's so determined and so loyal to his faith and to his roots and to who he truly is, that he tries anyway. And I just think the fact that people would call him a monster and so much changed him from the person he was when we first met him, he still grounds himself in those characteristics from the beginning of book one. And even though he goes through all these changes, he still retains all of that while growing at the same time. It's a very interesting story, and I mean, I don't think he was a zero when we started, but it is very much a zero to hero story in a way, you know. He grows as a person, his relationships grow stronger, he goes through hell and back, but he comes out fighting. He falls in love with a girl who didn't even know how to love when they first met, and he kind of changed that in her while so many things are changing in him as well. I just think Simon's a brilliantly written character, and he's been brilliantly brought to life in other media, that he's just so inspiring, and the fact that I relate to him so much right from the off, and that he goes on to do these incredible things, for me, kind of gives me hope that one day I'll be able to do something as amazing as Simon. And that's why he, as a character, resonates with me so well, and why I just absolutely adore him, and I can't wait to see where Simon's journey is going to take him in the future of the books, and in 3B and the finale of the show. He means a lot to me as a character, and I was in a very bad place when I started Shadowhunters. Many of the books. My life took a very bad turn, but then I found a lot of lightheartedness in Simon, and that really helped me through it. Because a character I really liked, who therefore I found a lot of myself in, kind of gave me hope that I'd be okay. But yeah, that is why Simon is my favourite character in Shadowhunters. I doubt he would ever be topped by anyone, because he just means that much to me. So whether you love Simon or not, I hope you can kind of understand my reasoning, and Michelle's reasoning in her amazing essay. I'm sure it's probably available online somewhere if you want to check it out. I think it's a fantastic read. But yeah, those are my reasons why I love Simon so much, and God knows how long this is. I apologise for rambling for so long. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Simon and why I love him so much. He's my absolute favourite. And, you know, what are your reasons for loving characters that you love? Let me know. Yeah, that is all I have to say. Well, I'll restrain myself and not talk about Simon anymore. I could gush for hours, but I won't. So until tomorrow, thanks for watching.